Hello, everybody, and a warm welcome to this week's Curious Connoisseurs Paris Masterclass. It's the live weekly show with moi-même, Sab, here in Paris, or not too far. I'm coming to you this week with a hearts mug. I need a stupid tourist Paris mug with the Eiffel Tower on. I haven't got it yet, but one day I will. And to go with the mug is a heart-shaped crisp or chip, as the Americans say. So, lots of love going around tonight. Right, so most of you will be watching this on the replay. So thanks for watching. Last week, the first time I did this, in the pre-launch section, which is up until January 2024, I told you all about the masterclass, how it works, the structure and everything. You want to know about that? Go and look at that one. This one is going to be how they're all going to be. I'm going to show you some new Paris curio files. And I'm going to jump right in. Why not? Let's see. Where am I? I don't know if I should say that I go live at 5 past, because I'm always about 5 minutes late. But what happens if I click that button? Yeah, there we go. So don't forget your group. Jump into your group. Say hello if you haven't said hello already. And, what is it with you in Paris? I want to know. Why do you love Paris? So I've got 3 new curio files for you. My objective, just, between you and me, is I'm trying to do 1 new curio file, which is a Paris curiosity a day until January. And then I will carry on, because in the whole of the masterclass from January to December 2024, I need 360 curio files. But I want to give you new ones right now as well. So I've got a lot of work going. So I'm going to try and do 1 a day, and I'm going to show you 3. The others are going into the masterclass next year. With that said, let's jump in. The first one is this. We're going to the 12th arrondissement. Let me make this a bit bigger. And yeah, there you go. And the 12th, all of the curio files I'm going to show you today are on the outside of Paris. They're on all of these arrondissements, these districts have reached the edge of Paris. So this is the 12th. So let me just show you the map here. So this is not one of my clear maps. It's just a Google Maps, because I'm going to take you on a little trip. So this is Paris, and the 12th arrondissement is down here in the bottom right. Can you see my mouse? Down there in the bottom right. Let's make it a bit bigger. Don't know if I can get the whole of Paris. Okay, that's the best size I can do. Yeah, down here this is the 12th. This is the first arrondissement that goes right the way to the edge. And the one after that I'm going to take you to is the 14th. I'm not going to show you it just yet, which is out here in the bottom, in the south of Paris. Maybe the 13th is more the south, but so is the 14th. And then the final one I'm going to take you to is right up in the north, on the other side, in the 18th. Can you guess what I'm going to show you? Maybe not. And maybe I have a bonus for you, which I've just published as a Paris Photo Chronicle. Right, so jumping in here. This is an amazing sculpture, I think, and I called it a spectacular series of sculptures looking a little downtrodden. Here's the map, as you can see, of the 12th arrondissement. Let me show you that big or bigger. And it's down here. It's right next to the Seine, and it's in Parc de Bercy. And I didn't know these were there until a few years after I'd been in Paris. Let me read this for you. Although most Parisians living in the outer ring of arrondissement are familiar with their local big park, they may not know many of the equally interesting green spaces on the opposite side of town. Not to mention tourists who are almost clinically grafted onto the inner districts, glued to the Seine, up to the Musée d'Orsay, Invalides and Lady Eiffel, but never venture further afield. I'm just going to show you what I mean by glued to the Seine. Tourists generally stick around the middle and are somewhat glued to the Seine up to, well, of course, the Louvre. Then you've got the Musée d'Orsay is around here somewhere. And then you've got the Eiffel Tower. And some tourists, that's about as far as they get. Nothing wrong with that for a first time. Pretty impressive. The Eiffel Tower, Musée d'Orsay, the Louvre. Nothing wrong with that at all. But unfortunately, that's where sometimes people don't go any further. Imagine my surprise then, a few years after moving here, when my explorations of the upper reaches of the Parc de Bercy, Bercy Park, brought me to these strange creatures. Above, we can see one of Rachid Kimoun's stunning Enfants du Monde, which means Children of the World sculptures at Bercy. This is Jim, the New Yorker, made of bronze prints from the streets of New York. On the right is Felipe, the Mexican, complete with a huge hat, which you can't actually see in the photo here, but you might see in a second. These unique creations have been in the park since 2021 and represent children from 21 specific global cultures. I arrived in Paris in 1993 officially to live, and they weren't there then, so no wonder it took me a while to find them, because they weren't there. And even when they installed them, I didn't see them for a few more years after that, I think. You know, this is one of the wonders of Paris. You can walk around as much as you can. You'll never see everything, because they're always adding new things as well. Even if you could see almost every street, on the other side of town, they'd have added some new sculpture or something. So I have no fears that I will run out of things to see and tell you about in Paris for the rest of my life. They are fascinating to look at, because you can see what kids playing in the roads of those countries would see themselves, because the sculptures are made from prints of the streets in those countries. So you would see things like drain covers, paving stones, utility plaques, you know, like gas plaques or something, metal grids straight from the streets, my kind of sculpture. And in this one here, for example, you can see an M, and it's from Mexican, isn't it? It's Mexican. So maybe the M is Mexico. Maybe there's an M on all the street signs that they have in Mexico. And look at this one here. He's called Jim, and it says something like city in this middle section here, which they've taken as a print. It's like a drain cover or something. City of NY, it says in the middle. So, you know, you've got a hint of that it's New York, which is, it's just so amazing. This looks like actually almost like a Paris grid, the thing that makes up his hair or his head or his hat or whatever. It looks like one of those grids in Paris that go around the trees. But to be honest, I think it's like a hint of the Native Americans as well, because it looks a bit like a headdress. Let me take you for a little stroll. Just so I want to show you, you know, where these things are situated in Paris. And if we can, go down and have a little walk together. So here is the Parc de Bercy. It's not the first park people visit. And there's quite a few parks in Paris which are not the first park people visit. The classic ones, you know, Jardin de Luxembourg, the Champ de Mars, of course, because it's next to the Eiffel Tower, the Tuileries. These are the classics. But there are lots of others, and in some ways they're even more amazing. This isn't what I'd call amazing. It's because it's newer. So it doesn't have so much history, but it does have history. I mean, it even has, come to think of it, it has old rail tracks, which used to be part of, they used to bring the wine barrels into the wine cellars that used to be around this part. So I'm talking nonsense. Of course it has history. So anyway, let me drag you down here. As you can see, it's a kind of a griddy layout. So not like one of the parks with winding lanes and things like that. The lake is pretty sort of artificial. And here, so this is the Bibliothèque François Mitterrand. If I hover, maybe you get a picture of the horrendous thing. No, you don't. Anyway, so you cross over this river. It's called a passerelle, like a pedestrian-only bridge. You cross over, and there's this kind of section of green you can see here, and along there, it's not where you would normally go if you're walking in the park. And if you click on, I'm going to click on this. That's where they are. That's where these sculptures are. Not just one, 21. So I'm going to click here, and I'm trying to click, yeah, and see what happens. Say hello, by the way, if you're watching, you know, the replay probably. As people join, they'll see this huge number of videos that I've done introducing lots and lots, dozens and dozens of these Paris curiosities. And I would love you to comment. Please comment and say what you think. Say if you've been there before. Tell me if it's a surprise for you. Tell me if you like it. So I'm going to click on some of their photographs. Okay, so you can see they're in a row. They're a kind of staggered line there. And here is Jim. This is our Jim. If you remember from my curiosity, from my curio file, that's him. You can see I've sabified my photograph because, well, I can't help myself. That's what it looks like in real life. And you can see there's a whole bunch of them going into the distance. Some of them are very colorful, and each of them tries to incorporate an aspect of the country. So that's why I'm thinking this looks a bit like a Native American headdress. I don't think you're allowed to call them Indians these days. Some of them are kind of weird, kind of gruesome, but they're made from bits of the road. So, you know, they're not going to be lifelike. But he's got a big Canadian flag there. Not sure if they give the names of these. They just give the names of the photographers. This one, I think this one is the Mexican, I think. I'm looking to see if I can find the other one that I had here, this one here, the Mexican. I can find the Mexican somewhere. I think this might be the Mexican. No, it's not. No, that's not it. Anyway, you get the idea. And they go on each side of that little bridge. That's the back of one of them. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, it's really an amazing find. And you can find that Parc de Bercy here along the edge. All right, let's move on to the next one. And the next one, I'm going to zoom out of Google. And where are we going next on our little adventure? We're going down to the 14th. So let me see where that is. So that's down in the south of Paris. And we're heading to the 14th district. Very interesting district, very interesting arrondissement. I should have told you, by the way, that the Bercy Park is in the Bercy quarter. This time we're going to the Plaisance quarter. And this is one of my favorite Paris curiosities of all. Oh, I've just shown it to you. Hang on. All right, so we're going down near the edge of Paris. Now, you're going to start to see a line going along here. And I'm zooming in more. And you can see this line, I think. Can you see my mouse going down there? It's a diagonal going down there, especially on this green bit here. This is where we're going, to this green bit here. It's the old abandoned Paris railway that used to go around Paris. You used to have a train chugging around Paris with certain links going into the center to certain of the central stations. And it's wonderful. It was disused for many years. You couldn't get on it. One of the tragedies of my life and of my son Leo's as well, who he's passionate about it, is that we weren't able to ride on a train on it. And now it's been broken up. Bits of it are missing, and they're turning it into walks, which is wonderful because you could walk along it. And of course, because it's historical, there were two tracks. One going each way, probably. Well, the tracks weren't going one way each way. The trains on them were. And they've taken one of them up and they've left the other. So in some cases, they've left one and then next to it, they've made a nice path, like accessible for wheelchairs. But in some cases, they've left one of the tracks and that's where you walk with the old sleepers and everything. And then next to it, where the other track was, it's become a wilderness area. So it's for nature in the city, you know, butterflies and bees and things like that. So that's really cool. And now you can get down onto it in many areas around the city. So it's just great. In the past, you'd walk, when it wasn't open, you'd walk along and you suddenly realize you were walking over a bridge. You thought, why am I walking over a bridge? You'd look down, you'd way down, and you'd see this little line sneaking away, finishing normally in a tunnel, which went under the buildings above it. Sometimes you're walking down a street and there's a kind of bridge thing goes over your head from one building on one side to the other. And yet that's kind of weird. Why would there be a bridge going from one building to another? And this was la petite ceinture, which means the little belt, going over your head. In some cases, it had to go above the street. In some cases, it had to go under it. There are no real cases where it's actually at street level. Well, there must be at some point, I guess. Anyway, so that's where we're going. And let me show you the Curio file. Here it is. And I'm calling it 2 curiosities for the price of 1. That's where it starts getting really interesting. Where am I and what's this? So if this highly decorated structure, because look at the thing I'm looking at, you see that? A strange structure with one door closed and one door open, and there's just blackness behind it. What on earth is this? Well, if this highly decorated structure with its jet black interior showing through its rotting door seems a little intimidating, rest assured, it absolutely is. For if you venture within, you may find yourself wandering aimlessly and hopelessly lost in the famous and notorious tunnels of the Paris catacombs. This is a not so secret entrance now to the catacombs. I'm not talking about the cozy if creepy tourist attraction where other curio files cover elsewhere. That's where they buried a lot of people underneath and you can go and see the bones. That's a tourist attraction, which you actually have to pay to see. This isn't the same thing. We're looking here at a very unofficial entrance to unauthorized sections of the old quarry tunnels under Paris, reputed to be 300 kilometers long. Tunnels under Paris, 300 kilometers long. My son stuck his head in. I thought it would just, there'd be like a little cavern or a hut, and that was it. But I didn't realize that if he'd gone in, I might never have seen him again. I offered you 2 oddities for the price of 1, but can you guess what the other is, or rather where we are? Leo and I are exploring one of the latest sections of the Petite Ceinture to be open to the public. The Little Belt is the name of the defunct circular railway that used to run around the city. It opened progressively from 1851 and continued transporting passengers until just before the Second World War. It's one of the absolute hidden gems of the city. Yeah, I repeat what I said in my preamble, but that's what these videos are. I'm not just reading. Leo and I love wandering around all the open sections and some of the closed ones too. And this is another view of it. You can see every 100 meters, I think it is, they've got one of these things here which shows you the distance to the next station or the station before or something like that. And they're really cool, really colorful. And there are lots more lovely signs and things in a very typical style, covered in graffiti, which I will be showing in one place or another later. Now you can see there are people walking along there, and eventually we'll come to a tunnel and you can't go any further. And this tells you exactly where it is, just for you folks, just for you. And there's the map. You can see it's on this little green section here. So now you know exactly where it is. All you have to do is come along to Paris and check it out. You get down onto this over here, where it actually says Petite Ceinture. You've got some pictures as well, and or here, which is a kind of cafe. Well, let me click here and give you a little look at some of these pictures. So you're walking along. Sometimes they've opened sections which do go under tunnels, and you can see some of these amazing. The graffiti is just amazing, incredibly colourful. It might look a bit intimidating, but it's fine. You know, there's people there, but there are strange things. Like you can see these open window things. You wonder what's behind under these stairs going up. So it's absolutely, it's great. I just, you know, it's one of the joys of one of the true curiosities of the city. And there you've got a good view looking down from one of the bridges that would go across it. It's I love it. I love it. All right, that's enough of that one. Let me go back and where shall I take you next? I will take you to the opposite side of the city. So I'm going to zoom up so you can see Paris. I hope this is coming through on the video. And now I'm going to go over to the top here. Just realized I haven't plugged into the internet, so I'm just going to do that in case the connection is better. Right, here's the top of Paris. Actually, funnily enough, the first thing I see here is something called as the cafe that I just showed you here, where you get into the old railway. This is another train station. They both used to be train stations, which have been reconverted into kind of trendy but also environmentally friendly cafes or restaurants, which lead on to La Petite Ceinture. So that leads on to the little railway in the north of Paris. That's not where I'm taking you. I'm taking you somewhere much more classical. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Can you guess where we're going? The 18th. Probably the biggest tourist attraction in the 18th, but that isn't what I'm going to show you. All right, there we are. We're going to this place. You even got a nice little video there. We're going there, but the Basilica of Sacré-Cœur, Sacred Heart, is not what we're going to look at. We're going to look at this. Okay, there it is. So we're in the 70th quarter and the 18th arrondissement, which is called Clignancourt. So we're here down in the south of this district. And this is the photograph. And this is a great curiosity. When I saw it, well, let me read the text, so I'm not repeating myself. "'Twas a dark, dark day, the Sacred Heart went down. This proud vessel, sad titanic tragedy, sinks slowly into the Parisian sunset, left to the elements, forsaken in the four winds, as mysteriously abandoned as the accursed Marie Celeste. High on a French hill, folks are wondering still, what happened on that fateful afternoon? Whatever happened on that fateful afternoon? Put your ear to the ground and you'll yet hear the sound of those anguished cries as the buildings tilt, and as countless coffees are spilt and breathing chests abound." I've just realized it was rather poetic what I wrote. It looks like the building is sinking into the grass, doesn't it? And when I saw this photograph first, somebody else's photograph, I thought, oh, I have to have it. I have to have it. And I think I explain what's going on. Do you know what's going on here? Is the building really sinking into the ground? Haha. And the funny thing is, this photograph, or the possibility of taking this photograph, is in front of everybody's noses who visits Sacré-Cœur. And most people, 99.99%, will never take this photograph, but they could. And it's fun. When I first saw the photograph I imitated, I felt a rush and knew it belonged right here. My only regret with this extraordinary sinking building is that the sun doesn't set behind it, which would allow us to witness the disappearance of two monsters. It's trickery, bien sûr, of course. The Montmartre monolith isn't really headed for oblivion. And anyone can shoot this. Just stand next to the steeply sloping lawns leading to the Sacré-Cœur Basilica and tilt your camera. So the lawns, the grass is on a steep slope, which runs at an angle against the building behind it. So if you turn your camera to make the grass horizontal, you've actually got a building that look, and then you publish the photograph that way. It looks like the building sinking into the grass. So there you can see it. You can see the grass is steeply sloping at the same slope as the steps themselves. And there's the building right next to it. So I hope you like that one. And I'll take you down. Take you to Sacré-Cœur. Why not? Where are we? I just discovered that the lawn, the area leading up to it, is called Square Louise Michel. I didn't know that. I thought it would have been called, the Sacré-Cœur Garden or something, but in fact, it's not. So we're on here's the Basilica. And here are the lawns. So I'm going to take you down to the lawns, plonk you down here, Hopefully this will take me where I want to go. That's looking down towards Paris. One of the best views in Paris. It's spectacular. The horrible Montparnasse Tower. You can't see the Eiffel Tower from here. We're looking south, directly south. Due south is one on the Eiffel Tower is over to the right there, down in the southwest. But you can see it if you walk along a bit. You can see the gardens, the Louise Michel gardens. And I'm going to turn this round. Look at the weather. Oh my God, it looks like a storm over Paris. That's amazing. Looks like there's a thunderstorm pouring on Paris. Come around here. You're going to see the telescopes and stuff like that. There's the lawn. There are the tourists. And there's the building. So you'd have to walk that way a bit towards the building. I'm not sure if it's this one or if it's another flight of stairs up. It might be one more flight of stairs up and you can get this shot. So there you go. I do have another one for you, actually, a little surprise. I'm going to try and keep this to half an hour. Me talking about Paris for only half an hour. So on my, here's a bonus for you, and this will shortly be a curio file. I've just published this, and I'm going to blow this up. Here you can see on the wall 2 street names, and there's something very, very interesting about this. This happens a lot in Paris, with 2 street names. I mean, you have to know where to find them. You can guess the older one is above, and the newer one is below. That's the standard one below. In some cases, streets have changed. I think at one point when they sort of incorporated outer-lying bits of Paris into the central official Paris, because this is a whole other story, which I will tell you. They built walls which got successively bigger and bigger as they tried to accommodate more and more people and made Paris bigger and bigger. And sometimes they would have to change the names of streets because sort of villages sort of built up outside the walls of Paris. Then they decided to make Paris bigger, and then they suddenly had all these villages in Paris, and each village had a church street or I don't know, what else would you have? I don't know, but anyway, you know, I think at one point they ended up with 7 Rue de l'Église, 7 church streets. So obviously they had to be changed, but if the name had already been put up on the wall, they needed a new panel. Did they get rid of the old name? Well, they should have, yeah, to avoid confusion, but they didn't always. You know, maybe the people who were in charge of changing the names liked the old one, or they thought it was cute, or maybe they were a bit, you know, cheeky and they wanted to confuse people. But anyway, thank goodness they did, because this is one of those beautiful curiosities of Paris. But it goes much deeper than that. Because here, in fact, it's the same name, you see, Rue de Saint-Père and Rue de Saint-Père. So it's the Sacred Fathers Road. And, but the true curiosity lies elsewhere. If you look at the shot closely, I'm going to make it bigger. You look at the old sign closely, you might see something interesting. Right, that's as big as we can go. So check that out. You see where it says Rue de Saint-Père? Can you see something interesting here? The ST for Saint isn't the same as the rest. It looks much newer. It looks very smooth. And that's because in the past, when there's a revolution in France, the revolutionaries basically wanted to get rid of the king and the church, who were the sort of 2 huge powers of the time. You know, power to the people, get rid of religion and royalty, and we'll be okay. So what they did in their sort of revolutionary fervor was run around the streets trying to destroy everything linked to royalty and the church. And obviously saint is a pretty clear symbol of the church. So they would scratch out the name, the letters saint on street names when they found them. You know, some survived, some didn't. And very often, even today, you can find ones which have just got a kind of an empty square where they gouged out the saint. But in some cases, as I say in the text that goes with this photograph, if you want to read the text, well, I won't read it for you. Just blow that up again, and then you can see the text. You can stop the video if you want and read that. As I say in this text, kings and queens come and go. As it was just as I'm recording this, it was the revolution. It was the coronation in Britain. Charles III was officially crowned. But kings and queens come and go, and so do revolutions. And so sometimes the kings come back into favor. They called it the Restoration. And well, what did they do? Well, they went back into the streets, the royalists, and plastered over the gouged out bit and carved ST again. And you can see that here. That's exactly what we're looking at here. So that is pure history, literally written on the walls of Paris. Two other curiosities as well in this. It may be that I do this sort of thing quite a few times. I won't overdo it, but there's a lot of these. One thing to look at is the spacing of the letters. It's kind of funny, but this DES is one word. It means of the in plural. And there's a bit of a space in between the E and the S. And I kind of, I imagine old Pierre there, getting a bit tired, wants to go home and have a drink or something. And he doesn't sort of get the spacing right. And there's more space in between the E and the S than the D and the E, which is nice, very human. Because, someone had to hammer, chisel this out, didn't they? And then underneath on the old sign, there's a number. Now, this number, you see it quite a few places, relatively speaking. It's rare. These are all rare. These are all good things to look out for as you're walking around. But there's a fair few of them, if you know where to find them. And I'll give you the addresses of all of the ones I know. That's in the masterclass. There's a number. What is that number? Well, this number, obviously you know that there are 20 arrondissements, officially 20 districts in Paris. That's what we're basing the masterclass on. But go back 100 years, 200 years, 230 years, back around 1790, I think it was, Paris wasn't the same. And around then, it was divided into 60 districts. After that, it was divided into 48. And then they decided that, this was around the time of the French Revolution, then they decided, okay, let's have 12 arrondissements. And of those 48 sections, they incorporated them into the arrondissement. So if you look, let me show you this. You can see this is one arrondissement with 4 sections. Now these 4 sections, I have to verify this. These may have been the old sections, of which there were 48. So they turned all these 48, divided them into 12, and put 4 sections to make up an arrondissement. So there you go. And this number, getting to the point, this number will be one of those. It'll either be one of the 60 districts they had, or just after that they decided to have 48 sections. It's complicated, more complicated than we need to know. But that is a number. It's like the old arrondissement number. On the top of this, it says 7th arrondissement, 7e arrondissement. And that's basically the equivalent. But back in the old days, 130 years ago. 120 years ago, 130 years, 230 years ago. So there you go. That is my last curiosity for today. I hope you like that. The show, as usual, bring lots of people on board, get people to join us in the masterclass, and there'll be another show next week. Write in your suggestions. If you know of a Paris curiosity, let me know if you want me to cover it. Maybe it's on my list, maybe it isn't. So check in and say hello. And any comments you've got will be welcome. And I'll be back next week with a new set of Paris curiosities in my curio files. Okay, take care, folks, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.